Stop what you're doing. Because everything you thought you knew about Jasmine Panetta and Matt just got turned inside out. The crying, the heartbreak, the meticulously crafted Instagram captions about healing and betrayal, baby. They were nothing but a masterfully choreographed performance. Behind the scenes, while Matt was spiraling, Jasmine was building something much darker in the wings, something cold, a quiet plan. And that plan may have ended with Matt standing on the curb, with nowhere to go, locked out of his own apartment, as Jasmine toasted her freedom with a ring light and a glass of wine. This isn't just some messy breakup, it's a methodical takedown of slow, deliberate unraveling. Because now the leaks are starting, anonymous messages, voicemails, and photos with time stamps that don't match the story Jasmine told. And they all point to one disturbing possibility. Jasmine may have set this up from the beginning, not out of passion, not because things got toxic, but because she was done, and instead of leaving with dignity, she chose destruction. It got this far because at one point, you have to go back. Not to their very first kiss or to their first fight. Back to the moment Jasmine realized Matt would literally do anything to keep her. That's when the power shifted. That's when the manipulation began. At first, it was subtle. She'd cry, and he'd comfort. She'd threaten to leave, and he'd beg. She'd say she was broken, that no one had ever truly protected her, and he'd step in like a knight in shining armor. But it wasn't love, it was leverage, because the more he gave, the more she took. And every time he questioned it, she spun the narrative. You don't understand what I've been through. You're trying to control me. I gave up everything for you, and just like that, Matt lost the ability to challenge her without guilt. That's how it starts, with emotional pressure disguised as vulnerability, but it didn't end there. Sources close to the situation, meaning people who claim to have seen the texts and the lease documents, say Jasmine started slowly excising Matt from their shared life. First, the utilities, then the lease. Bit by bit, she decoupled herself legally, financially, and emotionally, and when the time came, she didn't need to ask him to leave. He was already unprotected. The most chilling part, she didn't do it in anger, she did it in silence. While Matt was out running errands one afternoon, Jasmine allegedly called the landlord and said he had abandoned the residence. Within hours, the locks were changed, his clothes in black trash bags, his name off the lease. No warning, no conversation, just gone. And as Matt stood outside trying to figure out what had just happened, Jasmine posted a filtered selfie with the caption, "Clearing out old energy." People thought it was poetic, healing, empowered. But Matt wasn't old energy, he was her fiancé. Meanwhile, Jasmine was posting skincare tips and breakup quotes, while Matt was sleeping on somebody's couch, trying to work out just how the woman who loved him could eradicate him like he never existed. What really makes that disturbing is how Jasmine publicly controlled the narrative. She got ahead of it, went live, played the victim, told her followers she was starting fresh. And because she cried on camera, people fell for it. They sent her sympathy, Deem donations. Meanwhile, Matt couldn't even get back inside to grab his passport. But that is where things get even uglier, because this was no reaction. It was a rollout. According to a former friend of Jasmine, someone who's now sharing everything, this whole breakup was a long time coming. Jasmine allegedly started pulling away the moment she hooked up with an immigration advisor. Not a therapist, not a couples counselor, an immigration advisor, and within days, she had a plan to file solo. So no, this wasn't some sordid finale to a star-crossed lover's tale. This was calculated, and Matt, he was merely collateral. You want to feel bad for someone who's heartbroken. But what do you do when the heartbreak was manufactured? When the tears were scripted, the fights were manipulated, and the eviction was the finale to a season only one of them knew they were starring in? This isn't about whether or not Jasmine loved Matt once. Maybe she did. But somewhere along the line, love stopped being the point and survival became the performance. She didn't just end the relationship, she torched it on camera for content, for attention, and maybe for paperwork. And while Matt is still picking up the pieces, Jasmine's already on to the next chapter. New apartment, new image, same smirk. The most painful betrayals aren't the loud ones. They're the ones that happen while you're still holding the other person's hand, believing they're holding yours too. And if you think that's the peak of this chaos, wait for it, because what came after the eviction? The live stream, the allegedly sent text, the time inconsistencies that are finally coming forward, that's where the real story starts to take a turn. And when you're ready, I'll tell you what Jasmine did the night Matt was locked out, and how a single deleted Instagram story may hold the key to proving she planned it all. It wasn't just the eviction, it was the silence that followed. The kind of silence that doesn't stem from confusion, but from certainty. Jasmine knew what she had done. She didn't panic. She didn't backpedal. And she just vanished long enough to let Matt unravel on his own before reappearing on social media like nothing had happened. For the careful watchers, though for the ones who monitored the exact order of events, the truth hit like a slap. Jasmine didn't just break up with Matt, she marooned him, erased him, publicly humiliated him, and built the perfect narrative to come out wounded. It had started early that morning when Jasmine told Matt she needed time to process everything. She wanted him to leave the apartment for a day or two, promising they would talk when she was calmer. He did as he usually did, thinking he was giving her space and respecting her needs. What he didn't know was that while he was out buying takeout and venting with a friend about how hard relationships are, Jasmine was changing the locks. The very same locks that Matt had paid to have installed for her security only 3 months earlier. The real kicker, she filmed herself that afternoon. An Instagram story, later deleted, with light makeup and soft, lo-fi music playing in the background. The caption said, "It's a day for self-love. Let go of what no longer serves you." In the frame behind her, sharp-eyed fans spotted black trash bags in the hallway. One of them even had Matt's distinctive hoodie sticking out, the one he was wearing during their moving in day episode. She didn't blur it, she didn't crop it. It was in the shot because she didn't care if anyone noticed. Or worse, she wanted them to. Meanwhile, Matt came home to find himself locked out, standing on the front step like a stranger, while Jasmine was getting ready to go live that night. She went on air, full glam, silk robe, ambient candles, glass of rose in hand. The first thing she said was, "This is the first night in months I can breathe." Fans flooded the comments asking where Matt was, what happened, if she was okay. She didn't cry. She didn't explain. She said, "Some people are meant to be lessons, not lifelines." And then she laughed. It sent shockwaves through the community. The same girl who cried over flowers, the one who begged for reassurance around every corner, the misunderstood lover who played it so cool on TV, was now smirking through the wreckage. While Matt had nowhere to go, even more disturbing was what came next. Just 1 hour after her live ended, Jasmine posted a very telling quote on her story: "Sometimes you have to burn a bridge just to prove it's yours." It wasn't vague, it wasn't accidental. It was a message, a final, scorched earth statement. She wasn't hiding what she did, she was celebrating it. And then, just as any hedged suspicion might begin to mount and mobilize, Jasmine would pivot. She uploaded a photo of herself in a bathtub, captioned "healing energy only," and restricted comments. But by then, it was already too late. People started to connect the dots, the timestamps, the bags in the background. The narrative Matt had said he was being asked to leave for space, but it wasn't just conjecture. Not anymore. An ex-neighbor contacted them anonymously via fan page with a message that blew it all wide open. She asked about how to change the locks 3 weeks before the breakup. Said she was waiting for the right moment. Said she didn't want drama, just closure. The message was dated. It was real. It blew the lid off everything. This wasn't chaos, it was choreography. Meanwhile, Matt was offline. Barely eating, barely sleeping, his friend claimed he was spiraling, that Matt replayed every conversation in his head, trying to understand how the woman who once begged him to promise forever had transformed into this stranger with perfect light and cold detachment. And here's the part that gets real. Rough to hear. Matt wasn't just heartbroken, he was broke. Jasmine had full access to their shared bank account, knew his passwords, controlled the rent, the deposits, the bills. When she pulled the plug, she didn't just take the apartment in court, she took the stability, and then she left him without a safety net. No warning, no grace, just gone. You gotta ask yourself, who does that? Who smiles on camera while someone they once claimed to love is locked out in the cold? But as chilling as that is, it's still not the full picture, because buried in Jasmine's Deem is those that just leaked from an anonymous source claiming to have known her well before Matt. Is something even more shocking. It's a message, just one single message. And it reads, "He'll cry for a while. Then I'll be the one they feel sorry for. Watch." You are going to want to see what comes next. The X from Panama. The phone call that was never supposed to be recorded. And the messages flipped upside down, driving the entire fandom into chaos. You've stuck with me through the unraveling. And now it's time to cross into dangerous territory, the part of the story where things stop looking like emotional fallout and start looking like strategy. Because everything Jasmine did up to this point was horrifying enough, but it wasn't random. It was layered, calculated, and worst of all, she might not have been acting alone. The rumors started as whispers, little comments on fan pages, claims from people who said they knew someone close to the couple. For a while, it sounded like your typical post-breakup noise, scorned exes, angry friends. But then something concrete dropped, and it changed everything. A voicemail. 47 seconds long, grainy but unmistakable, Jasmine's voice. Low and calm and oddly rehearsed. In it, she's talking to someone else, a woman, but her name is never said. The tone's almost casual, like they've discussed this before. And in the middle of the message, Jasmine says something that made my blood run cold. He's too emotional. I need to get him out before he starts figuring things out. If I wait, he'll cling. I need it clean. Fast. That wasn't a cry for help. That wasn't someone escaping abuse or toxicity. That was removal boiled, clinical, emotionally detached. Jasmine wasn't planning a separation. She was executing an operation. And here's where things take an even darker turn. The voice she's speaking to in that leaked audio sounded uncomfortably familiar to fans who followed this story. From the very beginning, wasn't a best friend, wasn't a family member. The voice, people believe, belongs to Matt's own cousin, the same cousin who introduced them, vouched for her, and told the world he was rooting for their love. That is when people figured out the betrayal wasn't just coming from Jasmine. It was coming from inside Matt's circle. And just like that, the picture starts to become frighteningly clear. Jasmine had an ally in her cause. Someone close to Matt, feeding her emotional context, helping her paint a picture. Maybe even advising on when and how to make her move. When Matt broke down publicly weeks later and said, "I was betrayed by people I trusted with my life," no one knew what he meant. But now, it's obvious. But he was couch surfing, trying to get his life together. While Jasmine remained in contact with said cousin, Deem emerged screen recordings. Messages that showed them checking in, discussing Matt's mental state and whether he had accepted it yet. One message even read, "He always spirals. That's how you'll win." Let him look unstable. This wasn't just a breakup, it was character assassination. But it doesn't stop there. An ex of Jasmine's from Panama, someone the fandom had never heard from before, suddenly appeared in the comments of a private fan page. They didn't just spill tea, they dropped screenshots. Jasmine had allegedly been messaging him behind Matt's back for months, telling him she missed him, saying she felt trapped in a lie, admitting that the relationship with Matt was never real, just a way out. Let that sink in. While Matt discussed building a family, Jasmine is said to have been texting her ex to say she regretted leaving and missed real passion. When the fans called her out on it, she says it was taken out of context. But in what kind of context does this get past? Then came the most damning message yet, one allegedly sent to a friend by Jasmine a month before the eviction. Once I'm out of this, I can be free again. I'll just need to make sure he looks like the one who gave up. That line broke the FANDOM because everything Matt had been doing, the tears, the pleading, the confusion, was now reframed. He wasn't losing her because he'd failed her. He was losing her because she needed him to look like a failure. What's so heartbreaking is that he played right into it. He cried publicly, apologized for nothing, blamed himself for her distance, posted cryptic messages saying he wasn't enough and that he loved to loudly. This entire time, Jasmine had just been waiting for the internet to turn on him. For a moment, it almost worked. But now, the tide is shifting. The people are starting to connect the dots. Old footage being reanalyzed, deleted posts being recovered. Behind every glamorous selfie Jasmine posted in the weeks leading up to the split, fans are spotting little clues. Reflections of packed boxes, captions that seem eerily self-congratulatory. Even a story from her glam squad thanking her for a fun day of transformation. Transformation from what? From partner to single? From girlfriend to victim? Or from emotional manipulator to master strategist? There's no denying it anymore. This wasn't just toxic, this was targeted. Meanwhile, as Matt tries to gather what's left of his dignity, Jasmine's out here treating the collapse like a branding opportunity. She's teasing new content, talking about her rebirth, booking podcast interviews where she hints at things you didn't see on the show, not to explain, not to apologize, but to rebuild her image on top of the wreckage. She knows what reality TV has taught her. A girl doesn't have to be honest, just interesting. That the one in charge of the edit is in charge of the story. And if you cry at the right moment, no one will remember anything else but some of us. We don't forget, we dig next up, following the money trail, the green card twist, and a deleted producer memo proving this story might have gone way deeper than even fans realized. We've crossed the line from betrayal into full-blown orchestration. And now it's time to talk about the real motive hiding in plain sight, the one thing that ties all of Jasmine's moves together: power. Because if you thought this was just about love gone wrong, or even a personal vendetta against Matt, you haven't been paying attention. This next chapter is about leverage, the kind that can get you a visa, a platform, and a way out. And when you start connecting the financial trail, the immigration whispers, and the silent protection she allegedly got behind the scenes, you realize Jasmine didn't just burn a bridge. She used it as a launch pad. The first clue was money, or rather, the absence of it. Jasmine had always positioned herself as the one struggling, the one scraping by. "I can't afford my hair appointments," she cried during a live stream. "I left everything behind for him." The sympathy rolled in fast. People sent her gift cards, donations, Venmo boosts. It became part of her brand. The broke beauty queen just trying to build a life. But then receipts started surfacing. Jasmine wasn't struggling. She was saving. Bank screenshots allegedly leaked by someone who once helped her find housing showed a series of quiet withdrawals, not for rent, but to a private savings account in her name alone. Transfers started right about the time she asked Matt to handle the bills this month because she was in crisis. But the crisis? It was a cover, and while Matt overdrafted his account to keep up, Jasmine was quietly building her exit fund. Then, the whispers came about immigration. Now, let's get one thing straight. Not all relationships in 90 Day Fiancé are a green card plot. But when some of those boxes start to get checked, one sudden shift in the emotional dynamics. Some legal maneuvering, timeline manipulation, you can't exactly deny the pattern. And Jasmine, she checked all the boxes. She allegedly started seeing an immigration consultant about 2 months prior to the eviction, not a couples counselor, not a therapist, an immigration consultant, and not for advice on paperwork. According to one message anonymously shared by a person claiming to work for a law office in Tampa, Jasmine was looking into something called a self-petition visa under the Violence Against Women Act. That visa allows someone to stay in the U.S. without a spouse's support if they claim to be in an emotionally or physically abusive situation. Problem was, there was never a report filed, no therapist, no police, nothing. Just Jasmine's word and the emotional breakdown she staged online once the eviction had gone public. Suddenly, it all made sense. The live stream, the bathtub photos, the artfully worded captions such as "you don't know what I've survived." She wasn't just venting, she was documenting. It was her alibi. Then came the biggest red flag of them all. According to an anonymous message he sent to several fan accounts, a former TLC production assistant who allegedly left mid-season revealed that Jasmine had negotiated an unusual clause in her appearance contract, in simple terms, one that allowed her to review scenes and grant approval over any scenes dealing with legal matters, finances, and immigration issues, otherwise known as partial editorial control. That's why key moments never aired. That's why emotional blow-ups were left out, why entire conversations felt cut short. The raw footage supposedly showed more, a lot more, but Jasmine's clause let her decide what stayed in and what got buried, if that's the case. Then Matt's fall wasn't simply ignored, it was edited out. Meanwhile, Jasmine was posting photos in a brand new apartment, white walls, minimalist decor, a full pantry. It didn't scream starting over, it screamed already settled. People started asking questions of how someone who cried broke for months had a new setup in one night, and just days later, her friend launched a GoFundMe for relocation support. Thousands of dollars rolled in. The page quietly disappeared. A week later, no refunds, no updates. The manipulation wasn't just emotional anymore. It was financial, legal, systemic. And now, even fans who once defended her are starting to admit the truth. Jasmine may have used Matt not just for emotional security, but as a stepping stone. A way in, a way up, a name on a lease, a name on a visa, a character in her storyline. Discarded the moment the script no longer served her. It's not just cruel, it's chilling. Because this whole arc, from "I love you" to "he's toxic," was dramatized in real time while Matt was writing love letters and making dinner plans. Jasmine was checking immigration loopholes while he was talking about forever. She was scheduling deposit transfers. And while he was in his feelings, she was smiling in front of her new ring light, taking sponsorship deals and filming her healing journey. That's what happens when reality TV becomes a bit too real. When production enables manipulation for the sake of ratings, when emotional abuse is sliced and diced into a quirky moment, when the person on the floor, crying, is invisible because her tears don't trend as well as a woman in a silk robe, captioning "rise like a phoenix." But the phoenix? She did light the conflagration herself. What comes next may prove to be the one thing. It finally all catches up to her because someone very close to Matt, is threatening to go public, not with words, with evidence, messages, voicemails, legal filings. And if what's being teased is true, it may expose everything Jasmine tried to hide. There's just one move she didn't plan. Matt could be preparing to say something. You've heard Jasmine's side. You've seen the stories, the selfies, the curated captions about healing and self-love. But what absolutely no one expected was Matt to finally speak hand when he did. It wasn't rage or revenge or drama. It was heartbreak. Unfiltered, undeniable heartbreak. Because when someone has been manipulated, erased, and humiliated on a public stage, they don't have to scream to be heard. Sometimes all it takes is one raw, gut-wrenching moment of truth, and Matt did it in the most haunting way possible. It was a voicemail. A voice memo, to be exact, 38 seconds in. Recorded sometime in the middle of his breakdown. When the eviction was fresh and the betrayal still bleeding, he sent it to a friend who later, in a move still debated online, shared it with a fan account. The audio spread like wildfire, not because it was salacious, not because it had drama, but because it sounded like a man who had just realized the love of his life never really loved him back. His voice is trembling in that recording. One can hear him choke back a sob, clear his throat, and say, "I gave her everything. She used my kindness like a weakness. I thought I was saving her. I didn't know I was handing her the tools to destroy me." That alone shut down the fandom. Even Jasmine's staunchest defenders started to back off, no matter what narrative she may try to control. No amount of filters or curated captions erased the pain in his voice. And that pain wasn't coming from a man who cheated or lied or abused. It's coming from someone who got played slowly, deliberately, and with a smile. But what really made this moment more devastating in that instant was timing. Matt's voice memo dropped on the same day that Jasmine posted a TikTok dancing in her new apartment, lip-syncing to a breakup anthem with the caption, "Peace looks good on me." You couldn't get a louder contrast. One person was mourning a relationship, the other was monetizing it, and now, the dam breaks, Matt's mom, who, up until this point in the scandal, had said nothing, she finally speaks up. She doesn't go on a podcast. She doesn't post a video. She just posts one photo of Matt as a child, standing in front of a treehouse, smiling. The caption, "He trusted everyone, he still does." That's why this broke him. That post hit like a freight train. Suddenly, people went back over every minute of the show. Every scene where Matt was bending over backward to prove his loyalty, the tears, the apologies, the gifts, the forgiveness, it all took on a new shape. This wasn't a codependent man clinging to a toxic relationship. This was someone desperately trying to earn love from someone who may have never planned to give it in the first place. And when it seemed like the dust was finally starting to settle, there came something new out, the something nobody was prepared for. Jasmine had recorded her voice memo, but this one wasn't meant for the public. It was sent privately to someone saved in her phone as L. Nobody knew who L was. Maybe a friend, maybe a confidant, maybe some co-conspirator in her plan for escape, but leak it did. And what she said on that recording shattered the whole facade. She says, "I didn't think he'd take it that hard. I thought once it was done, he'd move on. But he's falling apart, and now people are turning on me. I didn't want it to get this messy." Let that sink in. She was hoping it won't be this messy. Not I didn't mean to hurt him. Not I didn't expect him to be heartbroken. Just messy, like the problem wasn't the destruction. It was the visibility of it. It all came together. Jasmine's plan only worked as long as Matt remained silent. When he looked weak, the world must see him weak. He had to take the fall so she could rise. But in that moment, his voice shaken and in broken pieces, the story started to show its seams. And now, even her silences are loud. She hasn't responded to the leak. No comments, no denial. Just photos, aesthetic, curated, tightly controlled. But no matter how polished her posts are, the cracks are showing. Sponsorships have slowed down. Brand deals have gone quiet. Her comments are filling with questions she's no longer answering. And worst of all, the court of public opinion is starting to turn because people are realizing this wasn't a tragedy. It was a takedown. One fan wrote, "I used to think Jasmine was a survivor. Now I think she's just a storyteller. And Matt was her plot device." And honestly, that might be the most appropriate summary to date, because in the end, what's left behind isn't just a broken man. It's the wreckage of a performance that went too far. One where the main character forgot that real people were getting hurt. But that's still not all. One final twist, a camera-caught confrontation, a message never intended to be read, a voice, not Matt's, not Jasmine's, that may finally confirm the betrayal ran even deeper than we thought. You've followed the heartbreak. You've watched the betrayal. But nothing, and I mean, seriously, nothing can prepare you for what transpired next. Because when everyone thought that story had burned itself out, that the chaos had finally convened into silence, a confrontation materialized. One no one was supposed to see, one that had taken place in the deep of night, sans filters, lighting, or edits, a raw, uncut moment that yanked every lie into the light. And the voice that shattered everything, it wasn't Jasmine's, and it wasn't Matt's. It was someone else entirely, someone who might have been pulling strings behind both of them. Let's go back to the beginning. The video materialized out of nowhere. No warning, no teaser. Just that shaky cam from a Ring doorbell posted by some anonymous number. Then yanked down, but not before at least a couple of thousand. People had downloaded and reshared it. It was Matt's buddy's house, the place he'd been crashing since the eviction. The timestamp was to 13 a.m. The doorbell rings once, then twice, then harder. Standing there is Jasmine. No makeup. Hoodie pulled tight, phone in one hand, the other nervously tapping her thigh for a moment. It almost seems like she's about to simply walk away, but then the door opens. And what happens next is not a performance. It's not for the camera, it's real. Matt steps into frame, obviously very shaken. "Why are you here?" he asks. His voice is calm, flat. You can tell he's tired, not just physically, but exhausted in the kind of way that comes after being emotionally gutted. Jasmine looks at him, eyes already glossy, and then she says, "I didn't want it to end like this." He stares at her, silent. She tries again. "You weren't supposed to break. You always get back up. Let that line hit you. Not, 'I'm sorry.' Not, 'I didn't mean to hurt you.' You weren't supposed to break." Matt responds, and it's for the first time we have seen this side of him, not sad, but sharp. "You didn't end it, you detonated it, and you wanted me quiet while you walked away clean." Jasmine takes one step forward like she's going to say another word, maybe with defense. Maybe to cry, but the recording friend from behind the door cuts in, "Unless you're here to return what you stole, you need to go." And Jasmine, she doesn't fight it. She simply looks at Matt and says, "I hope you find peace in being the victim. It suits you." And then she is leaving. That moment, that sentence, hit like a punch to the fandom's collective chest. It suits you. It was confirmation of everything people had suspected, that Jasmine had stopped seeing Matt as a partner long ago. He wasn't a person to her anymore. He was a plot point. And in her eyes, he had finally become useful, just not in the way he hoped. But that's not all. Today's following the leak of footage, Matt's cousin, yep, the same cousin who set them up, posted a now deleted story with a cryptic message. Funny how everyone's shocked. "I told him not to fall in love with an actress." Fans went nuts. The comments blew up. People wanted answers. Was he in on the setup? Was he feeding information to Jasmine the whole time, playing the Matt sympathizer? Was he the one Jasmine was texting in those leaked DMs? Giving emotional play-by-plays like some kind of chess coach. And that's when the biggest twist. DROPPEDA. Screenshot surfaced, allegedly from Jasmine's old phone, showing a group chat. Just 3 people. Jasmine, the cousin, and someone labeled L during that conversation. Jasmine wrote, after the lock change, "I'll need today's max before I can move. L is handling the new place. Can you distract Matt if he gets suspicious?" The cousin responded, "Easy. He trusts me. He'll never see it coming." That one message. Just that line alone erased what remained of any defense that she had built. This wasn't impulsive. It wasn't emotional. It was a coordinated, multi-step takedown, and here's the kicker. Jasmine didn't refute. She didn't post a rejoinder. She didn't explain. She did post an image of herself holding a match over the flame of the candle, with the following caption, "You can't unlight the fire." The audacity, the theatrics, the confidence. But something had shifted. Her followers no longer found her bewitching. They were skeptical, critical, and slowly her image began to fracture. Comments turned sour, supporters pulled away. People started saying what had been too hard to say: she's not misunderstood, she's manipulative. And Matt, he finally posted something himself, in fact, a single photo. He was sitting on the floor of an empty room, holding the only thing he had left from their relationship, a printed photo of the two of them at the airport. When she first came. No caption. Just pain. And for the first time, Jasmine didn't look like the phoenix rising from the ashes. She looked like the one who set the fire and didn't care who got burned. What follows is not a prediction, it's implosion. The final moves, the leaked confession, and the final, brutal twist that reframes everything we thought we knew. Say the word, and I will bring you the end of this saga, the conclusion Jasmine never saw coming. You've seen the storm build, the setups, the gaslighting, the secret alliances, the filmed heartbreak being used as a weapon. But what's to come, the last chapter in this tangled mess of betrayal and manipulation? The emotional destruction will be the point where it finally breaks. Because Jasmine thought she was in control, she thought she could walk away unscathed. Rewrite the narrative. And let Matt just fade into obscurity as the emotional wreckage of her transformation story. But what she didn't count on was truth making its way to the surface. And this time, the truth had receipts, real ones. It started with a burner, not a fan page, not a gossip blog, but an anonymous profile with no followers. No posts, just one single IG story tagged with, "The edit was fake." The voice was real, here's what they cut. Then, the drop came. A screen recording of raw, unedited footage from production. The kind that never makes it to air. The kind only insiders have access to. In it, Jasmine is mid-conversation with a producer, and she's clearly unaware she's being recorded without the cameras formally rolling. She's laughing, calm, talking about Matt like he's a liability. She says he's too sensitive. It's annoying. I don't want to deal with his little breakdowns every week. I need a man who handles me, not cries every time I raise my voice. The producer asks if she's worried about the backlash. Her response: "People always love the pretty one. Trust me. I'll cry once and they'll forget everything." It's not just cruel, it's surgical. It's a woman who knew exactly how to play the edit, who to charm, when to cry, when to escalate. It wasn't some messy collapse. It was a performance with an ending she scripted herself, but the leak didn't stop there. Then a second file dropped hours later, a transcript of an internal email chain between the network executives over post-production edits. A senior editor emails in, "We need to edit out the part where Jasmine flips on Matt about the text from his coworker. She threatens to end this visa game and it might raise some flags." Another email follows, "Make her redemption arc louder." Soft music, more slow zooms. The breakup narrative needs to be balanced in favor of her POV. Let that sink in for a moment. Jasmine's manipulation wasn't just personal. It was protected, enabled, enhanced for ratings. And so, as Matt was losing everything, his home, his trust in people, his emotional stability, Jasmine was walking into brand deals, podcast interviews, and a possible solo spinoff, because the network didn't just see drama. They saw dollar signs. But here's where it all came crashing down. Matt spoke up for the first time in ages, and not a rant, not in anger, but with a document, a court filing. He's pursuing formal action not just for emotional distress, but for fraudulent misrepresentation and financial manipulation. He's including receipts of shared finances, alleged falsified claims tied to her visa application, and a list of witnesses, including to former production assistants and one of Jasmine's former friends, who has flipped sides and is cooperating fully. The fandom lost it. Hashtags flipped overnight from hashtag Jasmine deserved better to hashtag Matt was the victim and hashtag expose the edit. Even Jasmine's silence changed. The selfies stopped. The skincare advertisements disappeared. And the last thing she posted, black screen, no music. No caption, just one emoji. To some, it felt like another cryptic flex. To others, it's panic. But one thing's for sure, the control of the narrative has slipped out of her hands. And now she's watching as everything she built comes crumbling down. What's really the most salient thing to take away from this whole saga is not the betrayal, per se, or the setup, allegedly. It's just how calculated that was. How she used emotion like currency, trusting as a weapon, and pain like PR. She didn't just break up with Matt, she weaponized his love to build her brand. She sold a tragedy and expected no one to question the author. But Matt survived, broken, yes. Betrayed, absolutely, but still standing. And for the first time in months, people are listening to him the real version, not the edit. Not the script, not the victim she painted, but the human being she tried to erase. And as for Jasmine, she burned every bridge she crossed, perhaps. But now she's standing in the middle of the fire having been burned. And there's no one left to throw her a lifeline. This isn't just a breakup. It's the end of an illusion. And as that truth ripples out, one thing has never been clearer. Sometimes it's the one who cries on cue. The one who edits the script, and the one who smiles while they destroy you because they know. For a while, the camera will always love them.